Hello, everyone. This is Armstrong Williams on the right side. Armstrong. Don't curse, speak English. Armstrong. Virtuous society. Armstrong. I dare you to listen. Hey, turn it up. Hey. Armstrong. Get on the right side. Armstrong. Elevate your mind. Armstrong. I'm Armstrong Williams on the right side. Armstrong. Yo, man, it's your boy K.O. And you're tuned into the most conservative of our brothers. Armstrong. The Armstrong Williams Show. Please give me a break. Grow up. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the Armstrong Williams Show about the brain. You know, we get these emails and people on the street who hear Dr. Carson on the show often, and they're so blown away by it. And they ask me this simple question: why isn't it that you never talk to him about the brain? They think that he really understands. Let me say good morning to our guest, Dr. Carson. It's all about the brain this morning. How are you doing, Doctor?
Doing very well.
You know, one of the things I find in my life that sort of gives me an edge, and I'm just talking about me, I'm sure everyone has this edge, is the ability to find quick solutions, solve issues, reduce costs in a very synchronized way. It's just something that and I'm sure you can relate to this. I spend so much time of my day resolving problems, not conflict, finding ways to reinvent myself in the marketplace with the business, especially when I think about the times of peaks and valleys, especially in the valleys. It's all about how you process information, remember those that you're connected to, really understanding what they do, and how you can join forces together. And it always has to do with the brain. Why is it that some people are more able to process information better than others, resolve problems, solve conflict, and create new things that the marketplace eventually demands?
Well, you know, if you look at the human brain and you compare it with the brain of other animals, one of the things that is very striking is that we have these gigantic frontal lobes. Why is that? Well, the frontal lobes, a place where you do rational thought processing. You're able to integrate information from the past and the present, project them into a plan for the future. That's what makes us different than other creatures who, for the most part, tend to just react to what's going on rather than to actually take information and process it and project it and plan and organize their own future. And this is the difference between people who are very successful and highly organized and people who pretty much act like animals in the sense that they just react to what's going on around them. Everybody has the capacity to integrate information and use it in a way that will ameliorate their own circumstances, but not everybody takes advantage of that. And the brain is very much like a computer. You know, you can have a brand new Dell or a brand new Apple computer, but if you don't program it, it just sits there and looks pretty. If you program it, it can do an awful lot of stuff.
How do you suggest for adults listening to this conversation who's been living a pretty long time and have significant experiences to show for it, how do you program the brain?
Well, first of all, you have to make a decision because it does require some degree of discipline. For instance, it's a whole lot easier to come home and put your feet up in front of television and just watch and absorb than it is to grab a book or to take a course to actively learn something. And so you have to make a determination, very much like with an exercise program. You know, people get very enthusiastic. They say, yeah, okay, I'm going to exercise, and I'm going to drop this weight, and I'm going to look like that fitness model. Well, it's easy to have that for a few minutes, but it's not going to last very long unless you really have the determination. And the same thing goes for developing the brain. It's like any other part of the body. It requires willpower and discipline to do it. But, you know, some people are afraid. They say, well, you know, I'll overload my brain. You know, I don't want to put too much information in there. That's silly. You know, the human brain has so much capacity. It's been estimated that if you learned one new fact every second, 24/7, every second, it would take you over 3 million years. 3 million years to overload your brain. I don't know anybody who lives anywhere close to that long. So, you know, that's not an issue that we ever have to particularly worry about. So you just have to make that determination. I'm going to do this. I'm going to learn this. I'm going to spend this much time. And the easiest thing to do is just to say, I'm going to do it 15 minutes a day. That way it's not such a huge change in your lifestyle. And then later on you make it 30 minutes a day. And then 45, and then 60. You get up to 60 minutes a day of disciplined learning in a year, you'd be a different person.
Talk about the different intelligence and how to increase and enhance it. I'm talking about like analytic intelligence, emotional intelligence, the different intelligences, and how if people really could exercise those and utilize those all together, how much more brain power and how much more successful you will become, and alleviate a lot of the issues that people find themselves and circumstances they find themselves in.
Well, you know, everybody has different talents. And I'm talking physical talent, and I'm talking mental talent. Some people tend to grasp certain things much more easily. Many of us are familiar with people, for instance, who tend to grasp new languages very, very quickly. Some people seem to be inclined toward mathematics. Now, having said that, anybody with a normal brain can do virtually anything. You know, those people who sit around and say, for instance, I'm not good at math and science. Then you ask them, are you able to read? And they say, yes, I can read. I have no problem reading. Well, what if they only knew 21 of the 26 letters? All of a sudden, they'd have a lot of trouble reading. And they'd say, this is for somebody else, somebody who's really smart, somebody who has a special talent for reading. And yet, if you went in and filled in those 5 missing letters, and now they know all 26, voila, it becomes relatively easy to read. Math and science, exactly the same. Everything builds on something else. And if you have all the building blocks, it makes perfectly good sense. And if you're missing a few of them, things fall apart relatively quickly. That's the way it is with almost all intellectual endeavors. So it's a matter of knowing how to fill in the gaps. For somebody who says they're not good at math, what they need to do is go back to the point where math was easy for them and then work their way forward from there. And they'll find what's missing. And you put that missing block in, and all of a sudden the subsequent things make sense to you. It's the same, be it algebra, be it trigonometry, be it calculus, they're all the same.
Dr. Carson, how does one feed the brain? Basically, by what you're talking about in terms of reading, exercising the brain, training the brain for more information, being more curious. What about the interactions between people? How can they stimulate the brain? Sort of like what we're doing now.
Well, first of all, one of the best ways to stimulate your brain is to talk to people that you have some disagreement with. You're not going to get much stimulation if you just hang around people that you always agree with and who always think the same way. That's not going to stretch you. That's not going to make you start to analyze why you feel the way you do. It's not going to force you to look at the way somebody else looks at something. And a lot of people don't like to be around people who don't think the way they do. I always say, if two people think the same about everything, one of them isn't necessary. You know, we need to challenge each other, but in order to do that, you also need to develop a mindset where somebody who disagrees with you is not your enemy. You know, we have a tendency, particularly in our polarized society, to think that somebody who doesn't disagree with me, they're an evil person. You know, they're anti-American, they're anti-this or that. You know, what a bunch of garbage that is. It's such an immature attitude. And we really need to move beyond that if we want to begin to stretch our own capacity. And a lot of times, some of the things that I've worked on in medicine, I've had people come to me and say, you can't do that. This is why you can't do it. And I listen to what they say, and then I figure out a way around it. But if they hadn't told me that, I might not have figured out a way around it. So I don't see them as enemies. I see them as people who help facilitate figuring out how to do something.
Knowing you as a friend and have had the spent quality time with you and your family, I noticed that you really enjoy brain teaser games. I watch your wife and your sons, and I see how they play these games. But it's not just any kind of game. They're really serious games that stimulate the brain. You're learning, your adrenaline is flowing, the fluids are awakening. How important are there? What games and the importance of these games? I noticed that a lot of kids play the Xbox, but I don't think the Xbox has the same kind of effect on the brain in terms of the context I speak of when I talk about the kinds of games that you and your family play, especially early on in the family, and to a less extent that you continue today.
Yeah, well, what that does is it teaches you and it teaches the children how to problem solve. And isn't that what life is all about? I don't know anybody who doesn't have any problems. And the sooner you become adept at figuring out how to get around a problem, the higher quality of life you have. So I encourage people, particularly to play, games with your children. Words like...
Hold that point, Dr. Carson. Hold there. Playing games with your children and the words like... We're coming back to Dr. Ben Carson. It's all about the brain. Learning how to problem solve. We'll be back.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933. Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sports shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong-Williams.
And back with Dr. Carson, learning how to problem solve, learning words like, please continue.
Well, games like Scrabble, where you have to take a bunch of letters and come up with something. Words like taboo, where you have to learn how to use words without saying the obvious words. Those kinds of things are very challenging for a young person. And also things where you have to read and comprehend. Because you think what happens, particularly when a young person starts reading, they're looking at words, which means they learn how to spell. And then they have to put those words into sentences, so they learn grammar and syntax, and they begin to learn how to express themselves. And then they have to take those sentences and make them into concepts, so they learn how to use their creativity and their imagination. All of those are things that are extremely helpful in terms of creating success in your life. We need to help young people to get in the mode of recognizing that if there's a problem in my life, I'm the one who's going to solve it. I'm not going to sit around and wait for somebody else to solve it. And those kinds of games teach people that mindset.
Dr. Carson, talk about athletes and the brain when we see them do some remarkable things. While it doesn't get the instant notification where someone like you as a physician that may do something remarkable in the operating room, something that's never happened before, or someone maybe do something remarkable to save a life like a firefighter, a police officer may do something remarkable with the gun and this bullet. I mean, talk about those remarkable things that happens with the brain and what brings that on and separates those super athletes from ordinary athletes and super people from ordinary people, that little extra.
Well, bear in mind that the brain controls everything in the body. And determination is something that comes or originates in your brain, but sometimes it's manifested in your body. You've seen stories of, a mother whose child gets trapped beneath a car, and this 110-pound woman is able to lift the car wheel off of her car. Why is that? That's because of the brain. And what the brain has told the body not only that it can do, but it must do. And athletes can conjure up that same kind of thing, get that extra burst of adrenaline, and get the rest of the systems working together. You think about what happens. You're sitting in a room, everything's nice and quiet, and all of a sudden, through the door comes a hungry tiger. The tiger hasn't even touched you. But what happens? Your blood pressure goes up, your pulse goes up, your pupils begin to dilate. All kinds of things begin to happen in your body. Tiger hasn't touched you. That's because of your brain and the way that your brain is controlling the various organs in your body. And that can happen on multiple levels and happens with extremely successful athletes.
Now, I'm going to ask you a bizarre question because I think about this often because sometimes I think I'm so in sync with nature when the wind blows. Ideas, just when I'm trying to really solve something or work something out, when I'm alone with nature, sometimes some amazing thoughts enter my brain. Talk about being in touch with nature. And is that important? Am I crazy?
Well, I'll leave the second question alone. But in fact, some people feel at peace and very creative when they're around other people. Some people feel that way when they're on the seashore. Some people feel that way when they're in a park and the birds are singing. So I would say different strokes for different folks. And it's important to find that time and that place. Some people wake up early in the morning, and that is by far their most productive time. Some people are more productive after they've exercised. Few people are more productive after eating a big meal. And the reason for that, and the reason that you frequently feel sluggish after eating a big meal is because your blood is preferentially being diverted to the splanchnic bed to the gut area, and as opposed to your brain. So, your brain's less active, your gut is more active. That's why after a big meal you kind of get sluggish and you want to go to sleep.
So, doctor, what are some exercises for the brain? Not the obvious things.
Well, one of the things that I did, for instance, when I was in medical school and had to memorize huge amounts of things, I would practice memorizing chapters of the Bible. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Bible. That's what I enjoy. But it just kind of improved my memory overall, and it made it much easier to learn new things. Also, it's important to learn how you learn, because everybody learns in different ways. Some people learn with repetition, and I'm one of those people. And I would make flashcards, and I'd carry them around with me. And if I had 5 minutes, I'd pull out my flashcards, and I can still remember things that were on my flashcards 40 years ago. When I need to remember something, I just pull up that flashcard in my mind, and it's all right there. Those are great things to do. Once you learn how you learn, then you create your own system of repeating that thing and empowering yourself mentally.
So, what about physical exercises?
Well, what's good for the body is good for the brain. So, if you're talking about getting on a regular exercise regimen, swimming is particularly good because that exercises every part of your body. But remember, when you get your blood flowing very well, and you get your blood pressure under the right kind of control, and you don't have a lot of cholesterol and stuff floating around in your system, that's going to be important for every part of your body, including your brain. Also, making sure that you get adequate amounts of hydration. When I'm talking hydration, I'm not talking about soda, and I'm not talking about alcohol. I'm talking about water and water-equivalent substances. Some people say, well, I drink different. But if you drink things that actually require your body to work to get rid of those things, that's not really contributing to your hydration. And in fact, that can be dehydrating.
Tell us the things that destroys the capacity of the brain to do what it does best for the occupier of that brain.
Well, some of the obvious things would be alcohol. And there are many serious diseases that are alcohol-related that can permanently destroy the capacity of the brain. There are a number of drugs that have very deleterious effects on the brain. And, the problem with some of the drugs is that they can affect the brain in a way where you're done with the drug, and then months or even years later, it can have an effect. It's sort of a flashback type effect. So rather than expose yourself to that kind of danger, just leave it alone. Anything that's addicting is potentially harmful to your brain. And you don't want to put yourself in a bind where your desires that are created by this addiction cause you to do things that are detrimental to your own self-interest. And that tends to be what addictions do.
Dr. Carson, how much of the brain does the best of us, you're somebody like yourself, really use versus people that rarely use it? Because obviously what I'm hearing throughout this conversation is that we get very little use of our brain because we really don't understand what it's capable of doing.
Well, our brains, every one of our brains had tremendous capacity. I believe that our brains were created by God. I believe we're created in the image of God, and God is no dummy. And so the capacity is enormous. Many neuroscientists say, we use 10% of our brain, 15%, but nobody really knows what percentage is. But we do know that we have a lot more potential, a lot more capacity than we use. We've all seen the stories of these people they call savants or idiot savants who have some amazing ability. They can just hear a tune and they can sit down at a piano and play it out perfectly. Or you can say, what day of the week will it be in 1,417 days? And they'll say, Wednesday. And it's correct. Now, we sit around and we're amazed that they can do that. And yet, they're incapable of, for the most part, even taking care of themselves. Because they have some parts of the brain that are damaged or missing or just not.
Hold that point, Dr. Carson. Hold that. We're coming right back. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
You were mentioning something about where the brain could be damaged. Please continue.
Okay, well, these individuals have portions of their brain that don't appear to be working, and yet they are capable of doing things that most of us would consider absolutely amazing or miraculous. It's my belief that what has happened is that some of the inhibitory forces have been removed in those people, so that the same capacities that virtually all of us have been unleashed with nothing interfering with them. And I think all of us really have the capacity to do the same things that those individuals do.
So,
and again, it goes back to this amazing organ system that we have, and that some of us really refuse to take advantage of.
You know, I'm just curious, Dr. Carson, how do you develop that in your children? How do you, because I see the success that you've had with all of your children are gifted with the brain in terms of taking on the personalities of the mother and father, especially when it comes to the IQ. How do you develop that in your children?
Well, I think you have to challenge them. You have to make sure that you praise them when they are doing those things that are correct, because children, like everybody else, tend to thrive on praise and acceptance. So you make the things that are most praiseworthy and most acceptable those traits and characteristics that you really want to develop. And so when they're doing something extremely well, and it's something that is going to enhance their intellectual profile, you have to make sure that they really understand that this is exactly what you want them to do. And then that will become something that becomes important to them. You know, some children, like myself, found that quite detestable. I just wasn't interested in academics early on. And, my mother had to really force me to read. But after a while, I actually began to enjoy it. And the reason I began to enjoy it is because I saw what it did. I was the dumbest kid in the class. I was always the butt of all the jokes about somebody being stupid. And then once I started reading, all of that changed. It changed quite dramatically. And all of a sudden, the same people who were calling me dummy were asking me how to solve problems. And I kind of enjoyed that. And I recognized that the reason that was happening is because I was enhancing my own intellectual profile. Then it began to be something that I myself enjoyed doing, and it became a part of who I was.
I want to come back as we wrap up, because I know you're headed into surgery this morning. Again, especially emphasize to our audience how it is that you can maximize the brain, reawaken the brain, feed the brain, the things you talked about with reading, why it's important to read and feed the brain with substance instead of garbage. And what is that substance you spoke of earlier in our conversation?
Well, active processes for the brain, require it to do something. Sitting around and just, watching television and doing mindless things don't require as much of the brain as something like reading. And it's very much like using a muscle. Your muscle will only develop if you actively exercise it. It's not going to develop by you watching somebody else develop their muscle. So you can sit around and watch exercise programs all day, but it's not going to help your muscle. You have to actually do. And it's the same thing with your brain. You have to actually make it work. You have to put, some stress on it. You've heard the old adage, no pain, no gain. Well, that's true with the brain also. But interestingly enough, just like with exercise, even though it's very painful and unpleasant in the beginning, after you've been doing it for a while, you actually enjoy it. It actually becomes a part of you. You don't even feel right unless you do it. And the same thing happens with your brain. You just have to push yourself.
And why is it important to be consistent with the exercise and the reading and the pushing your brain, especially as you age?
Well, if you want to continue to gain, then you have to be consistent. If you want to be static, if you're satisfied with where you are, you don't have to do anything. But if you don't do anything, just like a muscle will atrophy, your intellectual capacity will cease to grow, and will stagnate as well. So you have the ability to control that. That's the wonderful thing about being a human being. We all get to make choices about who we are and who we want to be. And then we get to decide how much energy we want to put behind it. We are in control of our own destinies.
You know, Dr. Carson, your final thoughts?
My final thought is, praise God and thank Him for giving you a brain. Because with that, you can do almost anything. And recognize that the person who has the most to do with what happens to you in life is you, not somebody else.
Wow, Dr. Carson, I know you're at your destination, I can tell.
I am.
Thank you so much for this empowering conversation. All the best to you, Dr. Carson.
Thank you very much.
All right. That was Dr. Ben Carson, Director of Pediatric Neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins University, where he's been for over 30 years. Let us continue this conversation. Russell Davis has been patiently waiting and listening to this conversation. Russell, when you listen to, and you only got snippets of it, what were you feeling and thinking as you're listening to Dr. Carson, who is the number one neurosurgeon in the world, the first ever separate Siamese twins, to talk about the brain power, to talk about exercise? Did it motivate you? And I really feel you need a little motivation, but I won't get into that.
Well, it made me understand the even more the importance of just staying on top of your mind and keep your mind very active. It's just like I say, some people say, I'm going to retire, and then you get to the point where you retire, and and I'm going by personal experiences with family and stuff. You say you want to retire, you retire so you don't have to do anything, and and you're not active as you used to be, so you sort of like start declining. And it made me realize that you really have to keep pushing yourself more and more. The more successful you are, you still have to keep yourself motivated to continue to grow so that you can keep your mind functioning and staying active. Because sometimes if you retire and you just say, well, I've made it, I don't want to do the things I used to do, you're really starting to fail. So it made me realize that you have to push yourself. You have to constantly challenge yourself mentally as well as physically.
How much of a challenge is that for most people, do you feel, to stay motivated or find people that can help you? Because obviously, for me, I'm around many people who are active, they exercise, they read, they're always exploring, looking for new things to build and to grow. So it's a part of my circle of influence, so it's a little easier for me getting up 4 o'clock in the morning in the gym at 4:35, and then in the office before 6:30 a.m., and then producing shows, reading books, thinking about shows, looking for ideas. It seems like the brain is always on fire. But how does the average person who's not in the similar career, how do they find the motivation to stay charged?
Well, they used to say you are what you eat. Yeah, I'll say you are also the company that you keep. If you're not around people that's motivated and trying to make their life better, you can fall in that same category, become complacent with not wanting to do certain things that you really need to stay on top of. It's like growing up in an environment and everything around you is just at a point where it feels it doesn't have to push themselves. And as a result, if nothing else comes into your life, you will fall right in the same category as all of that you're growing up around. You see it so much. People talk about mentors and stuff, but you could take TV today and a child could turn the TV on and realize the importance of wanting to do more, wanting to be something. If they don't have those influences that come directly into their lives, TV, you can see something on TV and you can realize that I can be something more than what I am. I can shoot for something. and as a result, you can get the motivation that you need there. You can see a lot, from experiencing things on the outside of your life, if you choose to do it. But you have to choose to want something different for yourself.
This is the Armstrong Williams Show. You can always email us at info@RightSideWire.com. You can also catch our live streaming at www.livestream.com/Armstrong Williams. You can also catch us daily on Sirius Power 128, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you're in the St. Louis area, you can catch us on WGNU from 6 to 9 Central Time daily, Monday through Friday. We're going to come back and talk some real estate with Russell Davis. I'm Armstrong Williams. Don't go away.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.RightSideWire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.RightSideWire.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Whether it's their impact on prison guards, law enforcement officials, business executives, employees, or marriage and relationships, Lorette is dedicated to changing the individual and institutions around the globe. Lorette's diverse network and training courses can help provide you with the tools you need to both wisely and confidently lead, manage, and supervise yourself as well as others. Lorette Business Network, a proven system for achieving success in your business and life. Please visit their website and begin this life-lasting journey with Lorette today. www.lorette.org.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
So, Russell, how do you, what are your thoughts about the real estate market? What are some of the secrets and some hidden laws and that will be introduced come January 2013? How do you take advantage of it? And is real estate still the best way to create financial independence in this country? I know in the past it was real estate, multi-level marketing, but real estate was always heads and shoulders above everything else. Does real estate still have the potential to dominate, to give people an opportunity at creating wealth in this country?
Yes, I think real estate is very important for people to continue to look towards to strengthen their financial portfolio. I think young people, it's very important because it has the means to give them the stability that they're looking for. And if they're fortunate enough to get good deals, to look towards some of the things that maybe some people may not want in terms of investment properties, if they have the vision It allows them to purchase the property, get equity, and if there's other ideas that they want to pursue in terms of being an entrepreneur and they need capital, real estate is one of the things that will give them the ability to access capital. So it's very important to, when you're younger, I believe, to look towards creating some type of real estate portfolio. And I think this market, I live in Connecticut, and I think this market has come back to level off. I've seen where some of the purchases that was done 5 years ago, it's that market, the properties are still at that level. You know, it's probably different here than it is in some places. But if you live in an area where you're constantly seeing some type of growth going on with real estate development, you can rest assured that that area is doing pretty strong. And if you're not involved with what's going on, those people that's doing the investing to put up apartment buildings and office buildings in these tough economic times realize that because of the political action that's being taken by their community development programs and stuff, companies are coming into those areas. So your interest in real estate will be secure if you have the ability to purchase. Now, I think that in this market here, I think that it's very important for banks to allow access to the capital. I think it's very important to get away from this Dodd-Frank with this banking reform that they've done, because they've made it so hard for the young entrepreneur to access capital, even if they have real estate. And if they don't have real estate and they're interested in getting involved, they've made it so hard. And I understand that what was going on before, access to money was a little bit too, it was too easy. But it was easy because big banks realized that they had a plan, and what they did was got a lot of people on the hook. You have people with interest-only mortgages that now they can't refinance it, but they're in positions that they want their properties, and they're on a hook. And because of laws like Dodd-Frank, all of this regulation that's in place is making it more difficult for those people to refinance. The law should be, if you pay your mortgage and your mortgage is on time and the rates is low, you should be able to go in there and they should be able to pull your name and your account up and see how you've paid on time and you're a good customer. You shouldn't have to go through all of that. You shouldn't have to pull all your tax returns and stuff when you start talking about reducing payments. So the real estate is always good, but you can't hold people. You can't tie people's hands down about wanting to do better and wanting to grow. And real estate gives people a great access to retirement for tomorrow, and towards also developing their business that they want access to capital.
Where did you get your breaks? What were the turning points for you when you really made the transition? And you know what? I tell people, growing wealth, especially the thing that real estate teaches you, it's like raising a child. And you know about raising a child. I mean, growing wealth, if you really want it to take care of you and to sustain it, you got to raise it like a child. Sometimes it takes 18 years before the child leaves the house. Talk about that.
Well, as I say to some people, you may start out small, and give you an example. People that may not be very good with their hands, but there's condos all around the area where they live, and they decide to purchase a condo. And if what you say, after you've paid your taxes and your mortgage, it's $500 left over. That $500, someone may say, that's nothing. But now imagine, here it is 10 years later, you've accumulated 10 condos, and the profit margin, we'll keep the profit margin just at 500. That's $5,000 a month that you could say, now I'm at a point now I can just say I'm good with this. Now that $500, as you get older and you become to the retirement age, you're now maybe at instead of $60,000 a year income, you may be very easily at $200,000 a year because you no longer have the mortgages that you once had, and you leave something for your children. And the problem with so many people, they don't prepare themselves for retirement, nor do they realize when they start having children that they also have to create some type of environment that the kids inherit something, so they leave wealth. And that's what builds strength in families, when you can make it so that you can get generations and generations of wealth. And if those children grow up interested in what you've established as a business, they will grow to a next level, and then their children will grow. Each generation will have the benefit of their fathers.
And their mothers.
And their mothers.
Don't leave Mama M out of this.
No, it's very important to establish the value of everyone in your family.
And you know, family businesses can be successful. You're an incredible example of just your brothers are your best business partners, your best friends, those that you trust the most. It all starts there.
Well, you know, anytime you have a partnership, there's some give and take. There's a balance in being successful. And if you're going to bump heads and no one's going to yield to the next one, you're not going to grow. You're only going to get angry, and you're going to separate. And that which was now within the power of the family to grow, it stops. It stops, and it's not a good place to be. You have families that grew up and they may have had 35, 40, 50 years of family business, and now here's another generation. They just can't see eye to eye, and they sell it off. And now that growth stops. You must, in order to grow wealth in America as well as other places, not only America, but just anywhere, you have to have the mindset of being an entrepreneur. God bless the family that starts out with a mindset to understand the value of being an entrepreneur, because you leave a legacy and you allow your children to have something to grow in. It's like Dr. Carson said, you have to feed the mind, and success is something that's developed. And once you realize the importance of it and you make the sacrifices, you begin to understand how valuable it is.
You know, it's always a pleasure having you on, sir, and it really is. So you're not going to abandon real estate. You're going to stick with it. You're one of the most successful stories I know.
Oh, real estate. I not only put myself involved in the real estate game, I love real estate. I would love to see more people do more, learning how to grow with it. I would love to see the banks understanding the importance of an entrepreneur at a young age. You know, when you turn people away, you kill their dream. I remember when I was very young, I started and I went, there was an apartment building with 6 units in it. And I was able to buy that property had the bank recognized the full value of the income coming out of that property, but they only recognized half of it. But you have to recognize You have to recognize the asset, and you have to recognize the entrepreneur who is the most important asset coming to you. So they have to make it work.
Russell Davis, thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Carson, thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org. Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
What we need, soul food. Henry soul food. No, we need it, soul food. Henry soul food. No, I like it, soul food. Henry soul food. No, we need it, soul food. Henry soul food. Hit me.
Home of the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get the Henrys at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.